Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be talking about Ashes of Creation's fighter class in Alpha 2. I recently got to level 13 in the Alpha, which means I unlocked every row of skills. I can't yet have every skill at the same time, however, but I can show you all of them one by respeccing. Anyways, in this video, I'm going to show you the bleed build that I've been rocking, the other more control-oriented off-tankish build, and just overall all of the skills, along with some other tidbits about the class. Okay, so getting into the build that I've been running first, the bleed build. This build, from what I know, is the best DPS build with the fighter. And when you get to level 12, this build gets a little insane because of blood fusion. This crazy ability gives 100% lifesteal and 50 mana lifesteal. But here's the thing. If you have a bleed on the target, you get an extra 25% lifesteal, and on top of that, if you have the hemorrhaging effect on an enemy, it goes up to 50%, for a total of 150% lifesteal. This, in my opinion, makes the fighter one of the most solo-friendly classes. If you use blood fusion right, you will not have to worry about healing or mana sustain at all. But hold on, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's talk about the base abilities and how I use them for the combos that I want to set up. Okay, we're gonna start off with the big four. Basically my four main combo abilities. Number one, we need to have the Form of Ferocity on. If you didn't know, one of the things that sets the fighter apart are these combat forms. Every form gives different buffs and makes the fighter's first two abilities apply different status conditions. We are going for the Form of Ferocity because A, the attack speed is just a nice DPS increase, and B, it makes our Overpower and Brutal Cleave apply the bleed effect. So we usually start our combo off with one of those two abilities. Our fourth main skill is Rupture, which does a ton of damage and applies the hemorrhaging status to enemies that are bleeding. When we apply these bleed and hemorrhage statuses, we can then combo off of that with our other abilities like Blood Fusion, which I mentioned earlier, and Lethal Blow. Lethal Blow is the fighter's execute, but the thing is it has higher chances to crit when used on targets that are bleeding and hemorrhaging. This Lethal Blow skill also has a very nice passive of granting you some extra health and mana every time you deal overkill damage with it. Okay, let's talk about the other abilities that round out our build, starting with Blitz, the fighter's basic dash skill. I usually use this to initiate a fight or even dodge certain attacks with it, like the shaman's little glob toss or whatever. We also have our two AoE skills being Whirlwind and Maim, which both have very nice passives that increase damage. So that is our build. Now let me show you some of the pulls I do and how I use these combos to be a somewhat successful fighter. Okay guys, I'm here to show you in-game my bleed build, which I think is probably what every fighter should be running, probably. Or the trip build. The trip build's okay. I shall show you my skills against this bear right here. Basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with a Blitz, and this is just the basic dash. Another thing I have on this Blitz is the passive that gains me 20 combat momentum right away, which is very important because I'm also going to be using Berserk. And this is a very, very OP skill. It gives 30% power and movement speed. Also, you're immune to all disabling effects. This in PvP going to be very, very good. What is also very, very good about Berserk is this reinvigorating Berserk passive. Now this shit is busted AF. Berserk refreshes other ability cooldowns by 0.25 seconds per combat point, per point of combat momentum. This means if you activate Berserk when you have the full 100 momentum, you get 25 seconds off of all of your skills, including Blood Fusion, which so it basically cuts Blood Fusion's cooldown by more than half. This skill right here makes the fighter be able to do a lot of things. And this is why I think fighter, in my opinion, is probably the best solo class because of this Berserk and Blood Fusion combo. Okay. So say we're fighting this bear. I will dash to him. I will dash to him, put the bleed on him, rupture him so that he's hemorrhaging. And then from here, I can use blood fusion into like a maim or a whirlwind or just an auto attack, really, if you want, whatever to do damage. And then I'll activate my berserk, get all of my cooldowns back again, and just repeat the process. It is super, super good. With this build, you just don't stop. Okay, let me show you a group pull example on these guys. My health is about half, so I will go in, I will hit them with the brutal cleave, and then I'll pop my blood fusion into AoEs, and my health just instantly goes back up. It's as simple as that. You can also pop your blood fusion while you are doing the maim cast time. That is what I usually do. I'll start the maim, and then boom, I pop blood fusion right when I'm doing that. Also, another thing about Berserk, let me pop it right now. If I pop it, it will rapidly make my combat momentum go down, but you can keep it up for a while by getting your weapon combos off and killing stuff. So say you pop Berserk and then you use Blitz again to get the combat momentum. You can kind of make the Berserk buff go longer, if that makes sense. So the main things you want to do with this build, and the fighter in general in my opinion, is to make sure you have your bleeds on as many targets as you can, use all of your abilities and your weapon combos to gain combat momentum. Then when you have a decent amount of combat momentum built up, use Berserk and rinse and repeat. Also, of course, use blood fusion when you're low on health and mana. I absolutely love how the fighter's main class resource is named Momentum, because that just feels like what the fighter does. You just gain momentum and you keep going and going and going, which is why I think that the fighter is my favorite class so far. Anyways, here's a little bit on the fighter's other skills and the trip build. Other than that, like this is just a level 14 build. I'd obviously probably get Leap Strike for more mobility. This preservative blood fusion is really good. You get 25 increased damage mitigation and healing received if you activate blood fusion while below 50% health, which you will be doing a lot. So I would spec in the Leap Strike and the blood fusion passive after that, and then you could do some of the knockdown stuff like crippling blow. Knockout is a very useful thing. Lunging assault, not my favorite ability. I think it's kind of buns. Battle Cry is okay. Wouldn't really put any skill points into it unless I had to. Wallop is kind of nice, but the thing is you really want to spend your combat momentum on Berserk when you get up to Berserk. So I was using Wallop a decent amount when I was like lower levels. It's pretty nice. The other forms are meh. If you're running the knockdown form, you're gonna run Form of Celerity. And the knockdown build, basically, it's the same as this, except you run Form of Celerity, which applies staggered. Form of Celerity also gives a movement speed, which is kind of nice, but it makes your Brutal Cleave and Overpower do staggered, and then off of the staggered, you can do a crippling blow to trip them, or a Cataclysm for an AoE trip. I will show that to you guys right now. So now that I have Form of Celerity on, let's go to this bear. I might actually die to one of these bears because I don't know if the knockdown build will suit me well. So basically, you stagger them and then you can hit them with the knockdown. With the knockdown, your maim does an extra 20% more damage. So it's kind of nice. And then you could use Cataclysm to knock down as well, which is pretty nice. I'm actually gonna die because I don't have my siphon. This is not good. If you use blood fusion with the knockdown build, it's probably good. But yeah, if you want to run more CC and you have a healer on your group, that's probably the way to go. Don't go the knockdown build. Go bleed. Go bleed build. So yeah, that's my main take on the fighter class. Some other things you should know about the fighter is that a good bow, even if you don't use the bow too much, is very, very useful. If you didn't know, in Ashes of Creation, your character still uses your offhand weapons stats for your main weapon. So having a good bow or something with good stats will boost your main greatsword's damage. I was lucky enough to get a blue 200 something power bow, and it like almost doubled my damage with my sword. So having a good longbow or short bow or even a physical power spell book or anything like that, very, very useful on the fighter. I think the main stats you should be going for are strength, dex, and constitution on the fighter as well. I'm not too geared yet. I mean, I don't even have a helmet at this point. Hopefully that changes next weekend. But anyways, if you guys want to know more about the fighter, I will be streaming next weekend on Twitch. So if you want to hang out there, talk Ashes, I'm game. Anyways, other than that, I hope you guys have an amazing day, and we will see you in the next video. I have a epic droppings.
What do you want for it?
Nothing.
I both love you for all eternity.
Your love for one poo? Sign me up.
Is that all it takes?